So we are now in the final day of practice for the Las Vegas Raiders before the pads come on. Officially, the pads come on tomorrow, which is Monday. And in the final day prior to the pads actually fully coming on, the Raiders offense is apparently dominating. And they had arguably the best day on that side of the field. According to the guy that I speak to, he told me that the offense was on absolute fire. He said both quarterbacks looked really, really good. Geno Smith throwing multiple touchdowns, Aidan O'Connell throwing multiple touchdowns. Even during the red zone portion, which came towards the end of practice, the offense continued to find success. They continued to score. And they basically ended up beating on the defense on the final day. And this has me fired up. And we're going to get into some of these videos, some of these actual tweets that are also kind of coming out. A lot of the beat reporters put some stuff out there that I kind of want to get into. But I'm so damn excited for the Raiders this season, right? And I want to just start right there because the Raiders have a really, really good quarterback that has had success in the NFL. It's a guy that I think with a good offensive coordinator, which the Raiders once again have this season. Usually you don't get those type of pairings, but when you do, you get success, right? You find success. And I think for the Raiders, they're going to find a lot of success this season because of the fact that they have a good quarterback, they have a good offensive coordinator, and they have weapons on the offensive side as well, right? Multiple players across the board. And to take it a step further, even on the defensive side, and I know the defense didn't have success today, even on the defensive side, the Raiders have some playmakers, right? They have guys that can kind of get after it a little bit. Malcolm Koonce, Maxx Crosby, Adam Butler on the first level of that defense. Jermaine Pratt, Jamal Adams, Devin White on the second level, right? These are guys that are smart, instinctive football players. Third level, some question marks, but they have some potential there as well with Darian Porter. Third round pick apparently looks really, really, really good, right? Even in camp and even up to this point, the guys look really good. And of course, we'll see how they, kind of figure it out as training camp kind of goes on. Third level of defense is always going to be the question mark for most of us. Even though John Spytek and Pete Carroll are very, very confident in that third level of defense, this season is going to be an interesting ass season, man. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into some of these camp videos kind of coming out. So again, we'll start right away with some of the quarterbacks. You can see Geno Smith working on some pocket drills here. Geno Smith to me is going to have a lot of success this season with the Raiders. Not only does he once again have a good offensive coordinator, the most recent season that Geno Smith played for the Seahawks, things are different for him, right? He wasn't with the same offensive coordinator. He wasn't with the same head coach, right? Pete Carroll wasn't there with the Seahawks in 2024. But he's now with Pete Carroll once again, and he has a good offensive coordinator. So to me, I think he's going to end up having a lot of success this season. Even a guy like Aidan O'Connell, if he was ever tasked to step in and potentially play, even Aidan O'Connell, I think under Chip Kelly would have success. I think Chip Kelly is that type of coordinator where he understands strengths and weaknesses for his players. And it's kind of crazy because, in yesterday's video, I talked about if Aidan O'Connell could potentially take over the job for Geno Smith. And it was just a video. And people thought I was trying to say that I think Aidan O'Connell has a chance to start. There's no way Aidan O'Connell is going to take over the job. He could look the best ever. It's just not going to happen, right? But regardless of that, he's still a Raiders quarterback. He's our backup quarterback, and we should be excited for Aidan O'Connell because he's a high-end backup quarterback for us. Maybe he becomes a starter. Maybe he ends up being a really good quarterback in the NFL. But for us this season, we have one of the better backups in the NFL in case anything were to happen to Geno. Right? So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on. So you can see, obviously, the Raiders are kind of getting out there. They're getting ready to kind of go through the drills and those type of things. And then you see our quarterbacks just kind of warming up here. Let's get into some of these updates that are coming out now. So based off of the guy that I spoke to, he kind of told me some of the same stuff. He did mention some things a little bit differently than what some of these reporters are saying, which we'll talk about. But you guys can see here, Sean Reed saying that Geno Smith hit Trey Tucker for a touchdown on a deep shot during team drills. He ran a nice play action fake that froze the defense. Really, really, really solid update that you want to kind of hear. And this is kind of what happened over the course of the day, right? So Geno Smith play action pass apparently froze the defense, and he hit a touchdown to Trey Tucker over the top. To me, really like hearing this report. Now, there's one other thing with this as well, which is Geno Smith, a couple plays later, hit Trey Tucker for another touchdown. So Geno Smith hit Trey Tucker today twice. on deep touchdown plays. That's something that I think you absolutely love to hear. Geno Smith is having success, and Trey Tucker's the guy that's, kind of on the other side of that. Geno Smith, to me, his best ability is his ability when it comes to deep passing. Geno Smith's not great when it comes in between the hash marks, when it comes to tight window passes. That's not Geno Smith's game. Last season, he struggled because that's what the offensive coordinator wanted. They designed an offense where Geno Smith had to throw the ball in the middle of the field a lot more. They ran, like slant concepts, curl concepts, and all curls concept, for example. That's not Geno Smith's game, right? Geno Smith's game is, let's run some shot plays, right? Let's run some posts, some influence routes on top of that. Let's run some overs or under routes. And then let Geno Smith push the ball downfield. That is his game. And the Raiders, and Chip Kelly specifically, understands that. And that's why we're hearing these reports that Geno's hitting touchdown passes over the top. Now, obviously, I don't have video of this play, nor am I at the actual Raiders camp. But the fact that he ran a nice play action and it froze the defense apparently is an interesting part of this, right? Because, I wouldn't think that the defense is like super worried about the run game at practice. And then I also am interested to know like which guys got beat over the top. Was it just like a corner, or was it someone else, right? Was the route a deep, like a 9 route or a go route where he's just going right down the sideline, or was it a post route where maybe a safety should have been over the top? Right. To me, that's an interesting thing that we probably wouldn't know, or we won't know. But I guess if you're at camp, you may have been able to kind of spot that. Regardless, kind of interesting, right? Kind of an interesting play. Geno did hit Trey Tucker twice, so just kind of keep that in mind. Vincent Bonsignore describes the first 11-on-11 period by saying that Geno Smith has looked dynamic in the Raiders' first 11-in-11 period today, including a long touchdown pass to Trey Tucker and a sideline hookup with Dante Thornton Jr. So there you have it, right? Another beat reporter is putting it out there that Geno Smith has looked dynamic. Again, really, really, really good thing that you want to kind of hear, right? The guy's looking good. The guy's looking dynamic. Keep in mind, it's the final practice without pads on. So as we go forward now, right, tomorrow will be the first day in full pads. We're going to get a lot more kind of coming out, right? We're going to hear a lot more with guys that are looking good in full pads, guys that are struggling. And we're going to find out a lot about this team as we just kind of go forward from this point, because now you've had, 4 or 5 practices where it's not full pads, but you're kind of ramping it up slowly, and which guys kind of look good. But when the pads come on, that's when guys are really going to start to stand out a little bit. And the fact that Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton are finding success has me excited. And then, of course, with Geno Smith being able to, look dynamic without pads, we're going to find out tomorrow how things kind of look. Where's the defense at? Do the Raiders need to add players? Do they need to get rid of some players? Again, we're going to find out so much as we kind of go forward from this point. There's a couple other updates that I want to get into. So Aiden O'Connell, another quarterback for the Raiders, also looked good today. Ryan McFadden says that Raiders wide receiver Jack Bech slipped past the defense before quarterback Aiden O'Connell finds him down the middle for a touchdown. That's another huge thing you want to hear, right? You want to hear that our backup quarterback is also finding success. If Aiden O'Connell's called upon, I would still feel comfortable that Aiden O'Connell could still win us some games. Jack Bech, working with the number 2 unit, is also finding a little bit of success. Now, it's also important to know that based off the guy that I spoke to, Jack Bech did not take first-team snaps. He took most of his snaps with the backups. And it's not a huge deal because I do think at this point, Trey Tucker has, he has the upper hand on Jack Bech. And, also just kind of keep this in mind. Over the last couple of days of practice, Jack Bech and Trey Tucker have been rotating in and out. And I believe as of yesterday and today as well, Jack Bech is no longer taking first-team snaps, which, again, I don't think is a huge deal. I think at this point, the Raiders are trying to just find the consistency among the wide receivers. They're trying to find consistency among, the personnel packages you're going to put out there, which tight ends are going to play with the number 1 unit, which tight ends are going to stay with the number 2 unit. There's some positions you can rotate in, and then there's some that you probably don't want to rotate in at all, right? You want guys to just kind of get comfortable. And, I'm not surprised Jack Bech is out there with the number 2s finding success. I think at some point, he'll play this season for the Raiders, but I think at some point he'll take over, right? And he'll become one of the Raiders' better players on the offensive side. Jack Bech has so much potential, and keep in mind, right, because of the fact that the Raiders drafted Jack Bech ahead of Dante Thornton, the Raiders think Jack Bech is the better prospect, better wide receiver. So it'll be interesting to see how like the development between him and Thornton kind of happens as we go forward. Jesse Merrick said that Aiden is having a nice team session, a nice post to Bech, and 2 plays later he dropped it in the bucket to Bachman for the score on a go route. So there you have it, right? The Jack Bech touchdown was a post route according to Jesse Merrick, while Ryan McFadden said that it was a pass through the middle of the field. So I'm not really sure which one it is, but a post route to Jack Bech, and then 2 plays later he dropped it in the bucket for Alex Bachman for the score on a go route. So that's another really good sign you want to kind of see, right? Aiden O'Connell, ball placement, phenomenal, right? Really, really accurate passer of the football. Raiders having a little bit of success. Let's go ahead and get into a couple more updates that are coming out here. This one's interesting because, to me, like a rookie that the Las Vegas Raiders have. So Mike Dixon said that we basically had a fight, right? A couple other guys said this as well. Mike Dixon said we got a scrap between rookie tackle Caleb Rogers and defensive tackle Adam Butler. They were throwing hands for real. Pads come on tomorrow. So Caleb Rogers, guard, obviously, for the Raiders, and Adam Butler got into it. That's kind of interesting to me a little bit, right? And this happened, I believe, during the team, right? Like the 11-on-11 stuff, which is also interesting because, Caleb Rogers is working with the second team unit. Is Adam Butler working with the second team unit as well, right? That's kind of interesting right there. Something I'm going to definitely find out. I'll probably fill you guys in tomorrow. I'll ask the guy if Adam Butler's only working with the second team unit. But according to Mike Dixon, they're throwing hands. I love this right here, man. I cannot tell you guys. Not from Adam Butler's perspective, right? Because he's a veteran and he's already a really good football player. But from the rookie Caleb Rogers perspective, right? I want my offensive linemen to be physical. I want them to not back down from a challenge. I want them to be a little scrappy, right? A little bit of, a mindset where you have that physicality to you, a little bit of swag to you. You don't back down from a challenge. This right here is something that I absolutely love to hear. And I'm happy that the Raiders brought in Caleb Rogers because, he's a 3rd-round pick. He's a guard, kind of like Dylan Parham, where Dylan Parham was like the expected long-term starter at guard. Caleb Rogers is now the long-term expected starter at guard for the Raiders. The thing is Caleb Rogers is such a great fit for the wide zone, outside zone scheme. And, to me, I really, really do think this. I think he's going to be a good football player for the Raiders. The potential is definitely there. He does have to work on a couple of things. He just has to kind of develop a little bit. But, you'll see Caleb Rogers snatch guys down. And if an offensive lineman can snatch down and be successful in college, at some point they'll be able to do that in the NFL as well. And, if you can snatch down, it means you understand leverage. You understand certain concepts, angles, and those type of things. And with Caleb Rogers showing that on tape that he does do that, to me, that shows that a guy definitely has the potential to be a long-term starter in the NFL. And a 3rd-round pick is a pretty steep price, especially for a guard, right? Most guards are going to be like 2nd, 3rd-round picks, right? Like most guards don't go in the 1st round. And the fact that the Raiders are, they have Caleb Rogers out there. He's fighting, he's physical, and he's kind of doing some of this stuff. And then his college tape also shows a pretty good football player. I'm excited for Caleb Rogers, right? I think there's also a chance, and I do fully believe this. I think there's a chance that Caleb Rogers ends up getting actual starting snaps for the Raiders at some point this season. There's a chance he ends up taking over. Depending on what he shows when pads come on, we'll see, right? But I think there's a chance that if he develops right, that he can end up taking that job over at some point. Maybe it's Alex Kappa, maybe it's Dylan Parham. Truth be told, if Dylan Parham misses any time, I think the Raiders might end up just straight up releasing him. I think there's a chance that ends up happening. The Raiders obviously value health, right? They value guys to be professional, take it seriously. And we saw how it kind of went with Christian Wilkins, who did not really take it that seriously. Again, I would not be surprised at all if the Raiders end up saying, hey, if Dylan Parham can't stay healthy and be consistent, let's just let Caleb Rogers take that job and let's just, let him start essentially. So, again, absolutely love this report coming out, man. I want to know what you guys think about this. Let me know. What do you guys think about the rookie interior offensive lineman throwing some hands? It's just an interesting thought. There's a couple other updates I want to just get into. Ryan McFadden puts it out there that the Raiders center Jackson Powers-Johnson is playing with the twos during team period. So this one's kind of interesting a little bit because from what I've heard, and I asked the guy that when I spoke to him yesterday, when I spoke to him, he told me that 2 days ago at practice, the Raiders center Jackson Powers-Johnson was practicing with the second team unit, right? So the last practice that the Raiders had, Powers-Johnson was with the twos. To me, that was kind of interesting to hear that because, I understand the idea that, hey, we want Jordan Meredith to take first team snaps, right? So Meredith is the one taking the first team snaps right now. It's interesting that Meredith is taking first team snaps in Friday's practice, and then he's still taking first team snaps come Sunday, right? I would expect the guys to rotate potentially. And how many snaps does Jordan Meredith even need realistically with the first team unit? To me, this is interesting. Now, Jackson Powers-Johnson's obviously a lot better than Jordan Meredith. It's not close. Powers-Johnson's our best offensive lineman. To me, it's interesting. It's something to kind of just keep an eye on, right? Did something happen? Is it just we want every single guy to get those snaps? What is it, right? I don't know. It's just really interesting to me, and I'm just not 100% sure with what's kind of going on here. I just assume that it has to do with the fact that you want to rotate both guys in. You want both guys to get those snaps. But it's now been 2 practices, right, consistently, essentially. And again, it's just really interesting. Now, I'll go ahead and say this as well. I think Jackson Powers-Johnson is going to be the starting center. I would be shocked if he's not, right? Like, it's not a battle, right? Like, this is definitely not a battle. It's one of those things where you want Jordan Meredith. As a center, you have to make a lot of calls. Right? You have to make all the different calls. You have to, as a center, get up there and, the quarterback's going to tell the center something. The center has to then communicate that to the offensive lineman. And that's not an easy thing to do, right? If you want to have success in the NFL and you want to be a great offensive line, the communication and the language that the center talks with the quarterback and the guys up front, it has to be on par. If it's not, you're going to struggle as an offensive line. And I think that's part of why the Raiders struggled last year a little bit. I feel like our offensive coordinator wasn't really that good last year. And with that, I also feel like, Jackson Powers-Johnson didn't practice at center, but he became the center at some point. The communication is just not going to be super fluid. This season, I feel like the Raiders want to make sure that does not happen. And I feel like that's part of why Powers-Johnson is working with the number 2 unit. Again, I don't even think there's a battle. I'd be shocked if the Raiders came out and said there's a battle at the center position. But it is interesting nonetheless, something we'll just kind of keep an eye on. We got just a couple more updates I want to get into. So during the red zone 11-on-11s, Geno Smith's pass to tight end Brock Bowers was broken up in the end zone by Eric Stokes. So Eric Stokes, Darian Porter took first team snaps today. To me, Eric Stokes, a really interesting football player because when I spoke to the guy, he said Eric Stokes has kind of stood out to him. Eric Stokes, for this scheme and system, he'll play off coverage, but he makes up ground super fast, right? He's long, he's lengthy, he's super fast, he makes up ground well. He told me that there's multiple plays that he made when, he's guarding Jacoby Myers, for example. And Myers runs around, and Eric Stokes makes a play on the football, right? He breaks the pass up, or he's all over Jacoby Myers, and the pass ball is incomplete. And he's been doing a good job on some of the other guys as well, but he was a guy that was kind of a standout. And, he's obviously here breaking up the pass that was intended for Brock Bowers. Eric Stokes might actually be a really good football player. And, I know he didn't obviously work out with the Green Bay Packers. He had a really good rookie year. He had an okay second year. The fall off happened year 3 and 4, but he still did have a really good rookie year, right? So there's something with Eric Stokes. He was a first round pick for a reason. There's some potential with Eric Stokes, and something tells me Pete Carroll, Patrick Graham, 2 coaches who have been really good with secondary players. Something tells me these guys are going to end up having success. I'm excited for the secondary, right? I know it's kind of a question mark, but I'm excited for that unit. I think the Raiders will end up having success there. Now, it's not just Eric Stokes. Cameron Richardson also is running with the starters. He was getting first team snaps, right? And I talked about that yesterday. Cameron Richardson running with the starters again had a nice pass breakup in the end zone matched up with Dante Thornton. That's a really, really, really positive sign that you want to kind of hear, right? You want to hear that your players are having success. You want to hear that Cameron Richardson is breaking up passes. Eric Stokes has looked really good according to the guy that I speak to. Cameron Richardson is another guy that has looked apparently pretty good as well. And he's also getting a lot of reps with the starters. Again, it's kind of interesting that a lot of the cornerbacks that are having success right now are the longer cornerbacks. The guys that are a little bit taller, they fit the scheme a little bit better. I almost feel like this defense is built for guys that are long and lengthy. And again, I talked about this yesterday when we talked about Cameron Richardson. But one of the things with the Pete Carroll defense is, guys are going to play 4 to 6 yards off the line of scrimmage. And that's just a part of that defense, right? So it's a reactive defense. You're going to play 4 to 6 yards off the line of scrimmage. If a guy runs a slant route, you're 4 to 6 yards off. If a player runs 3 yards towards you and then hits a slant route, you're probably about 2 to 3 yards away from this guy. You got to be able to react to that. You got to be able to get to the football. And, these long cornerbacks have they have a step up on some of the smaller cornerbacks. When you're 4 inches taller than a different cornerback, like, that means you're longer. Your arms are longer, right? Your fingers are just a little bit longer. So when that slant route happens, you can run and then you have the long arms to get over the top and break that pass up, right? And I think that's why Pete Carroll wants guys that are longer, right? And you got to have speed and quickness. You got to be able to make up ground, right? You can't be slow because then you can't react. But it does seem like the Raiders are favoring some of these guys, right? Darian Porter's running with the ones today. Eric Stokes had a lot of success. He's running with the ones. Cameron Richardson also had some first team defense snaps today, and he made a really, really nice play on the ball against Dante Thornton. This is something that I love to hear. There's a couple other things that I want to just kind of get into. Tommy Eichenberg has been getting some first team snaps today. This is something you definitely want to hear because I'm not going to lie to you guys. Watching Tommy Eichenberg's tape from last season, the guy really, really, really struggled to get off blocks. And I think this isn't, I don't think this is necessarily like, hey, we think Tommy Eichenberg's going to start. I think this is more of like, we want this guy to get some first team snaps to see what he can develop into. We want to give him that opportunity to kind of prove himself. But still, it's a good, good update that's kind of coming out. I'm actually excited to see what Tommy Eichenberg has developed into in terms of like the strength, the quickness, the hands. This guy really struggled to get off blocks. And what I mean by that is, as an inside linebacker, let's say you're shaded on the guard, right? You're 4 yards at the stacked linebacker position. You're over a guard. And let's say the guard takes an inside step and he's going to try to cut you off. You have to get over the top. This guy struggles to come downhill, right? Come forward and then beat that guard and then use the hands or use the power, maybe rip or try to go through a guy. He struggles to beat guys. What Tommy Eichenberg does instead is he'll stay where he's at, right? He's already 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. He'll stay where he's at. He'll run sideways. And then when he makes a tackle, the running back gains 4 yards. And you don't want that as a linebacker. You want linebackers that are downhill, right? They come forward and they stop a running back for a gain of 2 yards, right? To me, Tommy Eichenberg struggled to get off blocks. So, instead of coming forward, coming downhill, he'd run sideways, right? And to me, that's not the way you play linebacker and have success. You don't want to be a catcher. You want to be a downhill thumper, right? You want to hit people. But I like the fact that he's getting those first team snaps. And we'll see what he kind of develops into as he continues to develop. Overall, the Raiders had a really good practice today. There were some reports that like Jeremy Chin had an interception. There was a couple other Greedy Vance also had another interception as well. Overall, the Raiders had a really, really good day on the offensive side, but I'm excited to see what they do tomorrow when pads come on. I'm excited to see what the Raiders offense does. I'm excited to see what, the defense kind of looks like. Does Tommy Eichenberg continue to get first team snaps? To Cameron Richardson. Richardson's been getting first team snaps for a couple of practices now. He's obviously flashed. He's obviously shown something. And therefore the Raiders have continuously given him those reps as opposed to like Corey Bennett, who isn't getting the same amount of those first team snaps. Maybe the Raiders just don't feel as comfortable with him as they do with some of the other guys. Maybe the Raiders, they're not super comfortable with Adam Butler, who might not be taking first team snaps. So there's just a lot that we're going to find out as we kind of go forward. Let me know what you guys think, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, a lot of this stuff right now is just like tweets and stuff coming out. And then, I'll throw in stuff that I'm being, fed from my guy at camp as well. But the season's right around the corner. Like, we are literally like 10 days away at this point from the Raiders getting out there on the football field and having an actual game. And I'm excited as hell, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.